Hey there, Michael here. Thanks so much for listening to Third Space Indy. It's been a huge journey getting to the point where I feel comfortable releasing these, but I had a wonderful experience and will continue to do so as I meet more people all across Indianapolis. This has been a huge learning experience, so forgive any sort of technical difficulties. I'm very aware of them, but feel free to share any feedback you have about the podcast, how to improve it, thoughts on anything related to it. I would love to hear from you, especially if you have guest ideas. The first guest today is Megan Jefferson. She is a local Northside artist. She is all over town. The story of how I sort of came across her is that Anna and I would go on walks all across Broad Ripple, just through the neighborhoods, and I would see these flowers and bees and just all sorts of art on people's garages at their house. And I started to recognize that a lot of these were done by the same person. And I went to myself, like, I really want to meet that person. So in a lot of ways, Megan was one of the two main inspirations for this podcast. I'm really lucky that she followed up on the email I sent her initially within 30 minutes. And we sat down at the library like an hour and a half later. So she is both the inspiration for starting the podcast, but also the person who kickstarted it, sent it into high gear, if you will. And that was all the way back in late March. And here we are. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy.
Scared rabbit, they've got you boxed in. Old habit, you draw the curtain. Lonely only if they ever leave.
My name is Megan Jefferson, and I'm a painter. So I'm an oil painter and a mural artist. I do watercolors too. I have been painting, since graduating from university. And I've lived in Indianapolis for over 20 years.
Have you always lived in Indianapolis? Like,
No.
where you weren't born here? Where were you born?
No, I was born in Ohio. I grew up in a small town in northwestern Ohio, and then my family moved to a town outside of Cleveland, Ohio, when I was in high school. And then I went to Miami University, which is in Oxford, Ohio.
I applied there, actually.
Oh, nice.
It was a little like Twilight Zone-y for me, so I didn't go.
Oh, yeah, I had a great experience there. I loved Miami. It was wonderful. In fact, the art school was so awesome because the school itself has a lot of money, and the art school is pretty small. But because it did have the funding, they were able to bring in amazing artists. And so I got to meet and work with even some of the most amazing artists. And then the actual program was pretty small. And so you got a lot of individualized attention from the professors. So
You're
that
like
was
Salvador Dali walking through the door. You're like, hello, sir.
And then moved out to California just for a short stint. And then my husband got into graduate school at the University of Cincinnati. And then he took a job here at Heron School of Art and Design. He's a ceramic artist. And so he has been teaching there in the ceramics department for over 20 years, which is what brought us to Indianapolis. We thought it was going to be temporary. We were thinking that we would be here for about 2 years, and we have been here ever since.
So what, is it just his job holding you here, or what about Indianapolis is so compelling that you are stuck here now?
You know, I wouldn't call it stuck. I think
Stuck is maybe a negative connotation.
Yeah.
Use it, drawn in.
I would say that we choose to be here at this point. We have 2 boys, and they are very much rooted here. And I didn't know what to expect when we had first moved here. Neither one of us had ever been here, but I have been pleasantly surprised ever since moving here. And I would say my friends who have become like my family are one of the main reasons that I like being here. I also feel really supported as an artist in this community. So I'm happy to be here. And I think the cost of living is great in comparison to some other places around the country. So yeah, that's why we like it.
Cool. And so you don't have to give exact answers, but
Yeah.
you live in Midtown,
Yeah.
You live in Broad Ripple, or?
So I do live in Midtown.
Okay.
For 20 years, I lived in Meridian Kessler neighborhood, and we just moved, but we still live in Midtown.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the reason I reached out to you is because my wife and I go on walks. And when we were walking through the neighborhoods, I see on various garages and I guess like building, I don't know, mostly garages was what I was noticing.
Yeah.
It's just like beautiful murals of butterflies and flowers. And I said, I want to meet this person for no particular reason other than I was really drawn in by your art. So could you tell me about like how you all started doing that? Was it just for friends? You said friends are what sort of drew you in, or is that just a paycheck or?
No, I would say that friends are what I think are one of the most important things to me in this community. But in terms of murals, when I lived in Cincinnati, I worked for an organization called Artworks, and it was a job training program for youth through the arts. And I directed a program there where I hired teaching artists and then also partnered with all of the major art institutions in the city to come up with meaningful projects. And then we hired art apprentices who were the youth, and they worked under lead and teaching artists on these projects. And they were really beautiful public art projects, meaningful work for the apprentices. And some of those were murals. And so I saw the impact from 20 some years ago. And it was powerful to me. When I moved here, my focus was really being with my kids, but I always created art in some capacity. So I set up a studio in my garage. I painted a lot. And then once my kids got older, I wanted to venture out and get back into the world of nonprofits. And so I worked at a nonprofit called the Department of Public Works, which was an arts nonprofit that was wonderful. And their aim was to, what was it? It was like art and education through positive words. So I worked there as the grants director. And also, of course, was so interested in doing some sort of community mural painting. And so I developed a program with Dave and Holly Combs to create murals in the communities. And I started with some walls that were just around where I lived because I had been walking past them every day. I saw the chipping paint. I saw the graffiti. I saw just things that could be updated and made more bright and joyful. And so I found the funding to do those things, and I worked with the community to oftentimes paint these walls that were just around where I lived. Mm-hmm. And that organization closed down, so I just continued to paint murals on my own.
That's great. One of those is it's like the train car one?
I organized the completion of that, yeah.
That was not what
That was what the Department of Public Works.
Okay,
yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yep, and so the artist who designed that, his name is Pete Walliger, and he does a lot of train paintings.
I love trains.
They
Bring them back.
And so when he came and then he walked along the Monon and realized that it used to be a train line, and then all of the spaces for the mural were just these boxes. And right away he was like, oh, they have to be train cars. And so we put positive messages on those as well, and then worked with 300 community volunteers to complete that.
That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people.
It's a really long mural.
It's a quarter mile or so?
I would say that's probably a good assessment. Yeah, it's 49 train cars. And
that's absurd.
Yes, it doesn't look as big as it is, but each one of those train cars, we had 5 4-by-8-foot stencils that we used for all of the different components, like the black spray painted elements that are on there and then some of the logos. But yeah, it was a big undertaking, but it's made a really great impact in the neighborhood.
For people listening, if you are listening, I don't know the roads, but it's like right next to Half Liter Barbecue is the...
Yeah, it's between 52nd and 54th.
Perfect. I knew you would know. You're the expert here. You have done a lot yourself to support the community, like through whatever nonprofit you'd be working for or whatever contributions you make through mural creations or things like that. But what, in the reverse, like who has inspired you to like do that thing? Are there people locally who inspire you or push you forward, anything like that?
I would say just other artists in Indianapolis inspire me. I would say the communities of Broderpool, Merding Kessler, Bates Hendricks, all of these places, that have people who just want to make their part of the world a little brighter and a little more joyful. That's all so inspiring to me.
Do you have any specific names that pop out? Your husband's name, maybe?
Yeah, he's great. He has helped me with so many mural projects. And last year, together, we took part in 2 giant murals, one being at Robert's Camera.
Okay.
And that's,
I think I know where that is.
yeah, it's 40.
That's a giant camera store.
Yep.
Okay. I need to go there because I have a camera.
Yes, you would love it. Everyone in the community loves it. They've been around forever and they're amazing. But the wall is about 40 feet long and 20 feet tall. And so he and I did that. And then Dan Thompson, he also helped with that. He's amazing, a mural artist, spray paint artist. And then we also painted the Jimmy's nail salon, Corey and I, last year. And that's about 30 feet by 24 feet.
You're
That
just
was-
like ripping giant walls. That is giant.
They are giant.
How long does it take you to, let's say the camera one, how long does it take you to do a wall of that size? That's like, what, 400 square feet or more?
Yeah, more than that. Yeah.
How long does it take to do a mural?
So the whole process is divided into parts. The first is the design process, and that takes some time just on its own. So designing that digitally and then also working with the client to make any tweaks or make sure that it's perfect. And then there is the securing of materials and then the logistics of planning it out. So in that case, of course, we needed to rent a lift so that we could reach all the parts. We needed to figure out what the wall needed, and it needed primed. And so making sure that we're getting the right products. And I use a lot of Sherwin-Williams products. So they were great. And then, of course, getting the design onto the wall. Each of the walls is its own animal, and there's a different process that I use for each project. It just really depends on what the project is. But from there, it's then painting the wall. So, you know, it's not just showing up at a wall, getting out your paint and going to work. It's all of these things that take preparation, planning, and then execution.
How often do you have to get like heavy duty equipment, like like a scissor lift, or what are those called?
Yep.
That's what that's called.
Scissor lift, yep.
Is that like a common thing?
For that size wall, yes.
Is that intimidating?
Yeah. It is intimidating and it can be very scary, but with all of the right safety precautions, it's fine. And it allows me to do the work at that scale, which is exciting because seeing the work that big is very cool.
Amazing. Great. So like in Indianapolis, your art is everywhere. It's at the airport, which I haven't seen, or I've probably seen it, but I haven't recognized it because I've only been here a couple months. So what's the next, do you have, maybe you can reveal something. What's your next big project? Or like, where are you looking?
I currently, because it's so nice outside, is when exterior mural season really starts. So right now I have all kinds of residential projects and then a couple commercial projects that we'll see if they pan out. But I've got some really exciting projects that have designs that I'm excited about and looking forward to doing. And I think that's what is some of the most motivating part of it, is just being really excited about the designs that I get to work on.
Yeah.
And working with clients who are kind and appreciative and wonderful, and lucky for me, that happens to me all the time. I get to work and meet some amazing people.
You are mainly focused on murals now. Do you still do watercolor? And
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have a studio at the Harrison Center for the Arts, and we have over 30 artists there, 5 galleries. If you haven't been, strongly encourage you to go. Every first Friday of each month, it's open. It's called First Friday. So you can just wander in and out of the art galleries, check out all the different shows in the galleries. And each individual studio is so unique, so you kind of get a flavor of each artist's style and their space.
Yeah.
And people always comment on how cool that is. So yeah, I do oil painting commissions. I paint all the time. My body of work right now, I'm really interested in exploring depth of field. I'm doing a lot of florals there, but I also create a lot of landscapes with my oil paintings.
So depth of field meaning lots of layers in terms of here's a foreground, here's the midground and the background.
Yeah. And imagine looking at a photograph.
Landscapes.
Mostly, imagine a photograph that has a really blurred background and then there's a focal point in the foreground. The reason I got interested in this is because I listened to a podcast actually, and it was Andrew Huberman. He's a neuroscientist, and he was talking about how you can do these different exercises with your eyes that affect your parasympathetic nervous system. So a lot of them involve focusing on different things. Like one of the things that you can do is focus really far away in looking at a huge vista. So I do paint a lot of that as well. The other thing you can do is focus on one thing that's close to you and just have an awareness of how everything in the background is blurred and fades away. So both of those exercises activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is where healing happens. Your heart rate slows, your breathing slows, and you enter into a state of calm or peace. And I've really wanted to create something on canvas that allowed the viewer to experience that. So I've been working a lot on pieces that have that as a focus.
I've seen a little bit of your work. Just what I looked up in you emailed me so quickly that I only had so much time. Or I guess you texted me, but I really enjoy like the color work that you have going on, and the landscapes that I saw were really impressive. I would hang you up in my house if I had any money. So let's maybe zoom out a little bit to talk about Indianapolis.
Yeah.
You were drawn here. You mentioned having a sense of community, your friends. How did you, as an artist, get involved with your community, or even not as an artist? Like, how did you find a sense of place?
So it all started actually because I had a son when we moved here who was 1 at the time. And there was a forum way back when we were still using dial-up internet. It was an online community for parents. And I was connected to that same forum in Ohio. And then when we moved here, there was a section that was called Find Your Tribe. And so one of the first events that was posted in the Indianapolis group in that section was a meetup at Broad Ripple Park. And we lived in Broad Ripple. It was like in the first week that we moved here that I went over there. And the friends that I met then are still all of my friends. Of course, I have expanded my network. I have more friends than just that now, but they were all people that I met there. And some of them are artists. Some of them have always been artists, and some are not. But yeah.
It's such a simple thing to like just show up. I always tell people like don't invite me to things because I'll show up. That's how I moved from Arkansas. I used to hang out at a pizza place a lot, and one of the servers asked me to go to music bingo, and I just showed up because I did not expect you to come. And then I became very good friends with him and the owners and stuff. So just like the danger of just like showing up to things is you will not get rid of me.
Showing up is the first step of everything, right? You hear that all the time. Just show up. A lot of people don't.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially in this day and age when you can connect online so easily, it's so much easier to stay snuggled on the couch than actually get up and go out and do stuff. But it really does make a big difference.
Definitely. So since then,
Yeah.
how do you, especially post-COVID, how do you maintain like your friendships and just your sense of community, if you want to think of it in that way?
I think just staying in touch with friends throughout the week is really important. And then I have also always organized a weekly ladies' night with my closest friends.
Yeah.
And so that has actually been an amazing way to continue connecting with people and just seeing them weekly. First Fridays are also a really great way to meet new people.
At the museum or the art center?
Yep.
Okay. Not the museum. So just like you said, just show up. My mom has a book club with her friends, and I think it's their excuse basically to get together. And I think that's really powerful. Just like,
It is.
I think we really struggle with this is we're so afraid of our neighbors and even maybe potentially our friends. Like we need to really set aside time to get together and force it upon ourselves.
Agree.
What do you think is, again, to zoom out even further, what vibes are you feeling right now? Is that a way do you have a certain sense of the city's direction? Obviously, like potholes are a thing. The state of the world is a thing. Is there a certain shift in the air?
I don't know. I wouldn't know how to describe such a shift at the moment. I would say just affecting change on a micro level has ripple effects that change things on a macro level. And that's one thing that we could all take responsibility for, is just trying to impart connection and love as small as we need to, or as big as we can. But those small acts do have a huge ripple effect. And I think that is sometimes all we can really focus on, and just hope that it imparts the kind of world that we all want to live in. I think Indianapolis itself has grown over the past 20 years that I've been here. The neighborhoods are getting more diverse. Art is being really supported in a lot of ways through not only murals in neighborhoods and these homeowners that have a desire to create beauty for themselves and each other, but businesses are really awesomely supporting the arts right now. Organizations are working hard to make sure that our city has these pathways of expression. And so those are the things that I notice, and those have continued to grow, and I think that they will continue to grow.
When you say the city's supporting art and artists, are you seeing personally I'm sure you're connected with maybe younger artists reach out to you for advice and things like that.
Yep.
What's your sort of sense of the next generation, if you will?
I think that we all need opportunities. And so the Arts Council is amazing at putting out an email list of opportunities for novices and professionals. It's a great way to look for ways to try to be involved in projects or get different public arts projects under your belt, those kinds of things. I have people reaching out to me all the time who want to just help so they can learn. I haven't had any huge projects that I needed to take anyone up on that, but I have taught some mural making workshops. So that's been on my mind, to try to create something like that, because there seems to be a big interest, and I do want to offer the support to younger artists who are looking for ways to practice. Because the first step at being good at something is sucking at it.
That's why I'm here.
We've got to be able to make mistakes and try things and experiment and just do it.
Definitely. So outside of the art, what are you doing? You're hanging out with the ladies.
Yep.
You have your ladies' night.
Yeah.
Are you watching movies? Are you doing book club?
Sure.
Are you
Yep.
always bunko? That's like the classic ladies' excuse to get out.
Yeah.
Going out for beers.
I hang out a lot with my family. I
Yeah.
have 2 boys and a husband, and we do family dinners. My older son lives with his girlfriend. They come over and we do the family dinner thing. I listen to a ton of audiobooks while I paint.
Oh, yeah. What's the most recent one?
I listen to so many. Alias Grace.
Alias Grace.
Yeah.
What is that about?
It's this woman, and it's a Netflix show as well.
Is it a fiction?
Uh-huh. I watch a lot of documentaries. I watch a lot of Netflix, especially in the winter, as it's been cold. It was a long, cold winter.
It was.
Yeah.
It's given us a good spring so far.
Yeah.
I think the weather today, even, it was a little chilly, but it's pleasant.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to some concerts. There's always good concerts in the summer. I have my tickets to go see Valerie June, the Hi-Fi, and I just do normal things. I'm
Just
really
a normal,
kind of boring.
normal Midwest gal.
Yeah.
Okay. And then if there was someone in Indianapolis you could talk to, just let you think outside of your friend group, someone interesting who intrigues you, who would it be? Who's interesting you, whose work is blowing your mind or inspiring you or anything like that?
Let me give that some thought.
It's a really hard question.
I would say just like a lot of small business owners. As a small business owner myself, like we all need the support and we all need a platform to talk about what we do.
Yeah.
And there's so many great small businesses, especially in this area. So many bookshops are opening up.
Where do you frequent?
So Golden Hour Books is really cool. What is it that just moved in to on the corner of 52nd and College? Oh, it's really beautiful in there. I was just in there yesterday. It's funny, I'm like having all these brain moments.
It's hard to think about You probably don't even remember what you ate for breakfast this morning. I hardly do.
Yeah, it's true.
You get in this sort of, and you're also in the sort of art mindset. I snatched you away from it.
Yeah. But even there's so many great restaurant owners like Eddie Som. He has Half Liter, but he also owns a bunch of different restaurants around Indianapolis, and they've been around forever. So he's just has an interesting perspective. My friend Jamie Locke is an amazing artist. You might want to reach out to her.
What does she do?
She creates mandalas.
Ooh.
So she carves them.
That's cool.
Yeah. But then she also has a laser cutting machine. Amazing.
And unique.
Very unique. And then my friend Anila Agha, she is an amazing artist, traveling all over the world right now. And her work is beautiful.
I knew I could pull some names out of you.
Oh, yeah.
It seems like you live art like truly. Even though you claim to listen to a lot of audiobooks and watch Netflix, I feel like you are sucked in by your work in
Yeah.
a lot of ways, which is true of many artists.
Yeah. Wow, we have absolutely no reception in here.
There is Wi-Fi. It is free. Go to the library, everybody. Support your local libraries.
This is Anila's work.
Oh, wow. That is crazy.
Yeah. So that's a sculpture.
I need show notes.
Yes.
Anila, how do you say this?
Agha.
Anila.
But I would say reach out to her. She won Art Prize years and years ago, which is an art fair in Michigan. But since then, her work is collected by museums and she travels all over the world. So her perspective is pretty amazing. But I think she would be the kind of person that you would want to talk to. And she is originally from Pakistan, and she also taught at Heron School of Art and Design. And just by being able to travel the world right now and have her work in such amazing locations, she's got a really great perspective on contemporary art.
Quick cut in here. Megan and I got a little off topic, but we refocused when talking about things that inspire us. I mentioned that I'm deeply passionate about public transit, trains, and pedestrian living. That got her thinking about her time in Europe.
I traveled in Europe, so did the whole backpacking thing.
Oh, yeah. When did you go to Europe? Have you go? You've gone multiple times, maybe?
Just a couple times. But yeah, I did the backpacking thing in the 90s with my
okay.
sister for 8 weeks. And it was so amazing traveling by train and just how easy we could float between all of the countries and coming back to the States and realizing that could be a possibility. And it would be really easy to travel from state to state if we had the infrastructure to do that. So I would love to see more trains in this country as well. And actually, one of the things that really caught my attention was all of the painting that I saw all over Berlin. So there were so many amazing graffiti artists, and they painted everything, the buildings, the trains. I was really drawn in by the amount of color and artwork that was everywhere.
See, this is the real goal. It's called Third Space Indy, but the real goal is to do propaganda for public transit. So that's why we keep recording, so I can get sound bites of people saying, I want trains, and then I send it to the state house.
I would love a national train system. I think that would be super cool.
Actually, that actually leads me into a good... So, are you familiar with the concept of a third space? Third space implies your first space is your home, where you
Okay.
live. Your second space is where you work. So for you, it's your art studio, or I guess outside.
Yeah.
But a third space is where you go that's not either of those places. So you got work, home, and then the third place. And you mentioned like really liking lots of local bookstores and local restaurants and things like that. Those all fit into that third space category.
Okay.
But the manifesto, as you will, of this podcast is like third spaces in a lot of ways are dying off or not as common as they used to be. Things like churches also fit into like third space, community centers, all those sort of common spaces where people would go to hang out. Are there third spaces that maybe connect with you? So you have your ladies' night every week.
Yeah.
Do you guys go to someone's house or do you go to a third space?
Yeah, typically we'll meet up at somebody's house or go out to a restaurant. Oh, I don't know if that really works, but I would say when my kids were younger, we would go to so many parks, which I think would qualify as a third space.
Absolutely.
We would go into the nature centers and we would meet up with homeschooling groups at churches. We would go to climbing gyms. We would go to gymnastic spaces. So all of those kinds of, we would go to community art spaces. So for me, I was really engaged in those kinds of places when I had younger kids.
Do you feel like those things are still available and around?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the art center you go to, would you consider that? It's a little closed off because you have to pay to get in, except on First Fridays.
No,
Or no?
you don't have to pay.
I'm just making things up.
So the Harrison Center is a nonprofit. And as an artist, you have access to your studio whenever you want, but the public can show up and just be given a tour or wander around and see the work that's in the galleries, because the galleries are all open. They operate open from 9 to 5. And then if you want to see any artist or coordinate a time to get into their studio to see their work, you can do that as well. But no, there's never a charge to go to the Harrison. Yeah.
Okay, amazing. Yeah. I think parks are a perfect third space. I was actually at the fashion mall the other day. And to me, like, the fashion mall, or not the fashion mall, just malls in general are like the premier third space that's died off. And I think the reasons for that are really complicated in terms of there's an expectation that if you're at the mall, you're purchasing something rather than you can just exist in the space. And that sort of rings true at a lot of these places. You can't just go to a restaurant and sit.
Right.
You can't. You should go to a coffee shop and purchase coffee.
Sure.
It's the idea of it's difficult to find a place, especially as a younger person, or someone with no income, to like find a place to seek community. You mentioned the art space again. Are there other places that sort of stand out to you as a good spot to do that?
I would say libraries. We're in a library now.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been a great use of space, and it's free. So that's exciting. What comes to mind too is the old Glendale Mall, which is before your time, but it used to be an indoor mall, and the whole downstairs was dedicated to community spaces. So there was chess night, aerobic night, and there's the YMCA, which I've been a member of. And so that's a really good community space. The Art Center in Broad Ripple is another option. It's more for consuming classes, but the outdoor spaces are amazing. 100 Acre Woods behind Newfields. I go there all the time with my friends. I like to hike, and so visiting trails and parks is probably the highest on my list of third spaces that I can think of. And it's not like you're really going there to seek out community, but you could. There are hiking groups and things like that that exist that support that model.
Yeah, definitely. One of my premier senses of community I've ever gotten was actually a year and a half ago-ish at the Walton Art Center from Northwest Arkansas. It was funded by the Walton family of Walmart. So the Walton Art Center was where I paid for studio time to do pottery.
Okay.
But it was wonderful because just everyone there has a sort of sense of purpose, and they all sit there and learn from each other. They all chat. And I have met some really good friends at that place who I still talk to since moving away. And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate you as an artist, or any artist, is that I think whether or not you are good at art, there is a sense of community that comes with it.
It's true. Yeah.
And I think in a lot of places, it's sort of like going to the gym. If you see a weak person at the gym, a lot of times it's appropriate to help them out or offer some guidance. And the same thing is true of art. If someone's struggling with art, I feel like I have not ever met an artist who is not willing to give tips. Yeah. But yeah, that's all I got.
Great.
I'm going to ask you two make your own questions.
Okay.
First one is there a question you wish I would ask? No.
I can't think of it.
That's okay. We'll skip that. The next question is, I would like to start this because I think it's fun. It doesn't matter what you ask. Ask a question of the next guest, whoever it is.
Oh, okay.
I don't care what the question is.
I would like to know what they like most about Indianapolis, or what they feel gives you Indianapolis its unique flavor. in comparison to other places that they may have been recently.
Definitely. Michael here, hopping out again. Megan was a joy to talk to. If you're interested in checking out Megan's art, you can find her website at jeffersonartstudio.com. Her Instagram is megsj1art. That's MEGSJ1ART on Instagram. And of course, you can visit her art studio on First Fridays at the Harrison Center in Indianapolis. Thank you so much for listening to Third Space Indy, and I look forward to sharing my next conversation with you.
You lose what you don't choose.